68 cents per square foot. And assuming that is done annually, which is generally the case, you're coming up with about $750 per year for maintenance on that traditional bioretention system. Conversely, a Filterra 13 by 7 vault for that 1/3 acre, you need two visits, because typically in Tennessee, the hydrology requires us to maintain those systems twice a year, typically spring and fall. But you do it 2 times. We have a ballpark number of about $5 per square foot, and coming up with about $900 to maintain the system. So I would posit that $750 and $900 per year are roughly, equivalent costs in the grand scheme of things. So really, when you compare high flow biofilters versus traditional bioretention, some very key elements conclusions can be drawn. Generally speaking, they have the same components. They have a mulch layer. They have a media that's generally 2 foot, but traditional bioretention can go up to 4 feet, sometimes 5 feet, again, according to jurisdictional requirements. Typically, traditional bioretention is underdrained. With high flow biofilters, they're always underdrained effectively. And then they also have plants in both cases. And there are some high flow filters that claim to be biofilters that do not have plants, but we would make the argument that plants are very integral and required for the physical, chemical, and biological processes that occur to accomplish the high removal rate that both systems, both the high flow biofilter and a traditional bioretention system get. But conversely, again, the dramatic difference is the flow rate, and I won't belabor that point, but that is something that is key to the design of a high flow biofilter. The other final thing I would mention is I mentioned that traditional bioretention are typically made. The media is made in the field. Sorry about that. Typically made in the field, generally by contractors. Sometimes they use qualified media from other sources. There's one of the differentiators on some high flow biofilters like Filterra is that the type of testing done on the media itself, the proprietary media, is extensive. In the case of Filterra, we do 25 different tests to make sure that the media will function, and that includes a hydraulic conductivity test or flow rate test, as well as a quick TSS check to make sure that the media will perform as required in the field. So upon that, I will leave this conversation and introduce Yuyu Ishizuka. He's our stormwater design engineer for Tennessee, as well as covering Virginia. And let me turn it over to Yuyu and take it away.
Thanks, Glenn. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen here, so if you could bear with me for one moment.
And while you're doing that, I do have a couple of questions in the chat. The first one is, have you ever looked at using geofibers in your engineered media to artificially increase its internal friction angle to help keep your media from compacting due to water flow? That was the first question.
So whoever's asking the question should send us their resume so we can consider them for our product development group. And Yuyu, unless you have any commentary, I have nothing to say relative to that. It's a very intriguing comment in terms of what they're trying to achieve. I will make the comment that generally speaking, this is one of the reasons why it's good to have a high flow biofilter in a vault with protecting it against compaction, and that's part of the reason for a vault being a good conduit for the system. Secondly, the mulch itself is also protective of the media, keeping it from compacting too much as well. Do you have any comments about that? Any further on that question?
Nope, I think that's a perfectly good answer.
Do you want to cover the others, Charlene? Or
the next one is this biofilter on the NJCAT list?
So yes, absolutely. I have a slide at the very end, at the conclusion slide, but happy to comment. Filterra specifically is NJDEP certified at 80% TSS removal, and by and large, any Tennessee jurisdiction that accepts NJDEP certification, thereby by default effectively allows Filterra for 80% TSS.
And then the last question I have right now is, will folks have access to your slides so that you can use them to train our folks?
Absolutely. I'll be a PDF format, but yes.
Yeah. Okay. So if you send me that after we're done, and it's exactly how you want, I'll wait to send out all of the PDH certificates and any follow-up information after I receive that.
Perfect.
That's all I have. Someone's blowing their.
Okay, sounds good. Cool, I'll take it from here. So thanks, Glenn, and good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining us here today. So over the next few slides, I am going to get into some of what the innovations of high flow biofiltration systems. Glenn gave an excellent background and kind of history and some of the design aspects of it, but I'm going to go into some of the latest innovations that we've had over the years, and then additionally some of the case studies as well. I've got 3 that I want to illustrate today, so I'll get into those after that. So traditional high flow biofilters, or typical, biofilter systems that would ring a bell mostly, probably look something like this. And they're mostly synonymous with what is typically called like a tree box filter or an urban bioretention. I think those are 2 of the most common terms that are associated with high flow biofiltration systems. So, typically you've got something in a vault, relatively compact, taking in small drainage areas. Maybe you have 1 or 2, shrubs or small trees at best, probably nothing too more than that. From a design perspective, they're flow through systems. So anything that enters the unit itself is going to exit, as it is housed in a precast vault. But over the years, there's been advancements with high flow biofilter designs where there's a lot more flexibility with the shape, the size, and the configurations that you can see on the pictures there on the right. And you'll notice that they very much mimic traditional bioretention system or rain garden system, as they can be designed without the vault, so what we would consider an open design. And this expands the possibilities of high flow bioretention and provides more opportunity with really integrating high flow biofiltration systems to a project site. And I mentioned design with vaults or without vaults or vault free options. Typically, if you have it in a vault, they're limited to maybe a single plant or 2 plants at best. But without the vault, you have unlimited range there. You have a multitude of plants that you can use of the same type or different types, native plants, so on and so forth. So there's a lot more greater flexibility there. And same can be said about the shape. Obviously, with a vault, typically they're in a rectangular design or square design. With this, not having been limited to 1 or 2 shapes, you can really get as creative as you'd like here. And whether it's treating a small site or a large site, it provides a more seamless transition and a connection into the landscape of the native areas of your project site. So this provides a lot more aesthetic value as well, in addition to the water quality benefits. So really the purpose of these innovative designs has really been to build on the proven track record of high flow biofilter systems in typical designs that we have had for over 25 years. And with these additional benefits that are shown on the list here, in most cases, the primary pollutant, especially here in the state of Tennessee, we look at TSS, but we can look beyond that. We can look at pollutants, not just limited to that, but some of the nutrients and the metals that Glenn mentioned earlier, nitrogen, phosphorus, metals such as copper, zinc, lead, so on and so forth. So that is, and then providing those removals at a degree that is actually above typical requirements. So for example, 80% TSS is a common number that we see across the country that is mostly implemented, but maybe with a biofiltration system, you can get 85% TSS instead of 80. So you go above and beyond what is required. So there's nothing wrong with that. In addition, these open designs are configured so that they can provide a little flow attenuation as well as runoff reduction or infiltration, which is really the core part of low impact development. And in addition to that, the improved aesthetics with the plant flexibility, what you can choose to fit. So, you know, in many cases, you can get a landscape architect involved with the design of these engineered systems as well. So, you know, with all of the above, really looking at both, not just from a quality perspective with typical systems, but also adding that quantity element as well. So really a total stormwater treatment package design with these innovative systems. So this is a point I'm going to get into a couple of the case studies. So I have three. The first one here is actually in my home state in Maryland. This is called the Glen Forest Green Street Project. This is in Montgomery County, which is a suburb of DC. It's just north of our nation's capital here. And this is actually part of a culmination of a countywide green streets initiative that began just a little less than a decade ago. And you'll see the image on the right. There's a bunch of areas in which these green street projects have been completed anywhere between 2012 and 2015. And you see the one circled in red, the Glenmont Forest. This is the one that is currently in design, and it has a projected completion date of 2022. So a little less than 2 years. And this is treating about 17 total acres of impervious area with a total project value of $2.8 million. And ultimately, the goal of these projects is to really reduce stormwater pollution. So with green streets, actually, I'm going to skip one slide and go to this first, if you excuse me on that. This is an overall map of the project. This is taken straight off of the Montgomery County website. And this is a key to note, because while this project has an overall, contributing drainage area of 17 acres, this project focuses on retrofits of county-wide or county-owned right-of-way, so not necessarily personal property. And this is really crucial in keeping the project within its timeline, and also just additional capital economic benefits as well, in terms of the county not having to purchase any additional right-of-way to complete the project as well. You'll notice that there is a whole bunch of these. There are 3 types of green infrastructure BMPs that are being utilized for this project. One being bioretention systems, another being rain gardens, and the third being a tree box, which we have been referring to as high flow biofilters. So I'm going to go back to the previous slide. So these are actually snippets of these BMPs that have been installed in the other countywide Green Street projects. So you saw a list of maybe 10 to 15 that were already complete. These are some of the images there. So you'll notice that it's a combination, it's a hybrid approach. Each right-of-way has different, design parameters. So there are fits for each of them. The benefit with the high flow biofilter in this case is, in many cases you have a lot of, narrow right-of-ways or very limited space to implement. So what do you do in that case? So you see a picture here that a high flow biofilter was actually integrated with the sidewalk piece. You see how narrow it is. So instead of utilizing a traditional rain garden or bioretention cell that would have taken significantly more space, we were able to take advantage of a high flow biofilter by implementing in that shallow footprint, but still treating the same contributing drainage area that was required. So I'm going to skip a couple slides. So just talking about why green streets. Obviously, there is a stormwater management from a quality and quality treatment aspect of it. But, in terms of just not just that benefit, but, the social and an educational benefit as well. So by having these green streets, you also have providing natural habitat for native plants and native animals as well, as we're really finding that communities are often looking for ways to improve the local economy and community character, from just a connectivity standpoint with the neighborhood and where these BMPs are being implemented. So by installing these green streets, communities can really achieve not just water quality benefits, but, again, that real connection, that real vibe with the neighborhood, that communal feel they feel part of these infrastructure projects, and all while promoting a healthy environmental area and creating a safe space for the residents that live in the community. So this is the second case study. So we're going to go all the way out to the West Coast here. Glenn mentioned Washington a couple times. This is right in the Puget Sound, where ultimately discharges to Puget Sound up in Kitsap County. This is called Whispering Firs Stormwater Park. So the image that you see on the left, this is an overall snapshot of the facility. So this is not just simply a stormwater management, facility, if you will. This is a regional facility that captures a lot of contributing drainage area. And this is also a treatment train approach with pre-treatment provided by hydrodynamic separators going into 4 different cells of high flow bioretention, and then going downstream to a pond, which provides flow control and then ultimately discharges to the creek downstream. And here's a little bit of highlights and text here. So this is located in Silverdale, Washington. And what's really interesting about this project is that it was formerly a vacant mobile trailer park, what this facility was. So essentially this being a retrofit project. I mentioned the BMPs that were installed for the site. And again, this area treats 115 acres. So it's pretty phenomenal to think that, I'm going to go back one slide here, this facility on its own can capture 115 acres of total area, which was previously untreated. So there weren't really any stormwater quality measurements in place in this community since development started around in the 40s or the 50s here in the county. So it was really important for them to provide treatment for this site and the community as a whole. So now there's a large scale facility there, and what's great about these is that this is a park on its own. This is a dedicated stormwater park. So there's a lot of areas for residents to just walk around, feel a part of it. So it's not just that you're looking at it from the outside. There's a lot of walkways. You see a lot of these center circles. You'll see a lot of people walking, hiking, just kind of, experiencing the nature surrounding it, all these conifer trees that are there, which was crucial because compared to, say, like a traditional bioretention system, they were actually able to achieve a 95% reduction in overall footprint by using the high flow media. So that's really significant, and it prevented them from having to cut down any of these natural, habitat and maintain just a purely retrofit situation where they utilize the area that was available to them. So that was a critical component for this project as well. This is from 2019, so this is about a year ago. So you'll see, I'm going to go back one slide, that a lot of the plants are still kind of in its infancy. So I think it'll be really interesting to see them mature and grow over time and really start to look like a very colorful and very pretty, aesthetically pleasing rain garden in the near future. This is another one that's also in the state of Washington. This is in Tacoma, so it's a little bit further south, 30-40 miles south of Seattle. But the purpose and kind of the benefits here were very similar in terms of not just achieving water quality, but really providing an area where there's education opportunities, social opportunities. This actually facility is an entrance to the Point Defiance Park, which is a huge park that has anything from gardens to zoos to a little strip of a beach you might see at the edge of that picture there. So it's a huge park, with lots of traffic, and this is the entranceway. So the first thing that they see when they come into this park is this stormwater treatment facility. This one, compared to the previous project that I highlighted, captures even more drainage area. This treats up to 756 acres of contributing drainage area. So that is a massive amount of runoff that is entering, and massive amount of runoff that was previously untreated. So it's kind of staggering to really think about these things and, you know, think about what these potential large-scale regional stormwater facilities can really do for the community. And all that was treated with 5,500 square feet of, in this case, was a Filterra bioscape system. So that's a little bit more than 1/10 of an acre of bioretention media to treat 756 acres of contributing drainage area. So that is pretty remarkable if you really think about it. And another fun fact for this one, this was actually a conversion of a former go-kart track, and there were some real steep slope issues with this, where this project was going to be located. So what they did was just kind of mimic a waterfall, like a step down approach. So you'll see that it kind of flows in from the right side here, from all the way up to the top, and then through various diversion channels and flumes and swales and such, it kind of naturally steps down and provides treatment of the whole drainage area. There's a huge end wall that you can't see here in the picture that is the inlet, surfing inlet into this facility. So that was a really interesting fact about this one. And I think I'm mentioning all these case studies because, you know, traditionally we think about, you know, maybe high flow biofilters as just, okay, let's achieve water quality, let's achieve, you know, stormwater quality treatment. And I think that is first and foremost the purpose of these facilities. But by going with these innovative routes where you can capture a lot of more drainage area and you can go outside the realms of just having it in a small precast vault, by implementing these large facilities, it creates a lot of opportunities as, you know, social tools, community tools, you know, recreational environments where, you know, you're providing more awareness to the community of what stormwater management is really all about, especially in an area where they hadn't really implemented anything of the sort. And downstream, especially in these areas, Glenn mentioned salmon, that it's a huge haven for this area. So it doesn't just contribute to, you know, say drinking water, which might be a thing that, you know, comes to their mind first, but, you know, stormwater management is a huge threat, is a legitimate threat to the state of Washington and the communities that surround it. So by having these opportunities to implement these systems, you know, I have it on a brief list here on the left-hand side, but, you know, you can have outdoor classrooms. I know that as far as the Tacoma site, some universities of the surrounding area have had outdoor classes right besides these stormwater facilities as well. So really providing a connection there is really important. And just future trail connections and job training, which leads to economical benefits as well. So, you know, really the whole point of this presentation was to highlight what is the, you know, the triple bottom line benefits. And, you know, this is what I try to highlight here with these various case studies. So with that concludes my portion of the slide. So I am going to.
Yuyu, can I interrupt and just ask you to keep presenting, and I'll just, that way we don't switch.
Oh, yeah.
And I'll just tell you to switch slides. But thank you. So hang on there. Yuyu, thank you for that. That was excellent, kind of illustrating case studies. And again, another way to look at this is Yuyu had presented a nominally 100 acre site as a large watershed that was being treated or managed, more importantly, stormwater management. And so a traditional bioretention system would be at minimum 5% of that 100 acres, which is you know, going to be a huge amount of space, specifically 5 acres roughly. And conversely, a high flow biofilter system would be about 1/3 of an acre. So what that opportunity provides is, in that when you talk about scale like that, you can really do something with 4.5 acres in terms of creating, you know, benefits to the community. So that's kind of another look at a different look at high flow biofilters that you may not have thought about before, because typically high flow biofilters are dealing with 1/3 of an acre. It's not necessarily the case that they can't be used for large drainage areas, and that's what we're trying to illustrate here. So specifically for Tennessee, you know, we certainly asked the question, well, how can we translate these to where Tennessee is going, and how it might help jurisdictions and, of course, the design community in Tennessee. And specifically, I point to TDEC's settlement language that basically says they want to remove pollutants to the maximum extent practicable. And specifically in the program requirements, they state, and I'm going to read here for everyone, the permittee must implement a permanent stormwater management program focused on removing pollutants from stormwater discharges through management practices, control techniques and systems, design and engineering methods implemented to the maximum extent practicable. And I would posit that high flow biofilters can be useful tools in achieving this maximum extent practicable, specifically because of the high pollutant removal rates that you achieve, which you know specifically exceed TSS at 80%. Secondly, they have a wide range of pollutants, which may even be more important, a wide range of pollutants being removed in that they get nutrients, heavy metals, and oil and grease. And thirdly, that they provide effectively a very small footprint that could be otherwise used in some cases to promote infiltration, for example, which supports the maximum extent practicable type of technique. And we can help you with designs with high flow biofilters to achieve infiltration that you may not otherwise accomplish. Yuyu, if you could advance. Next slide. So someone just did ask earlier, so this is kind of a repeat, but specifically for Tennessee, Filterra as a high flow biofilter is approved according to NJDP certification. We also have other certifications, or I should say approvals, through very rigorous programs, including Washington DOE, the TAPE program. So we're Gould with in fact at even higher than 140 inches an hour, specifically at 175 inches an hour. So if there's a jurisdiction that would accept or consider that field testing for approval, we could effectively work with them to establish sizing criteria at 175 inches an hour. But other, you know, key jurisdictions, City of Chattanooga specifically, Metro Nashville, City of Knoxville, Knox County, just to pick a few, have all accepted Filterra at 80% due to NJDEP certification. And I will note that City of Chattanooga has, I didn't point it out specifically in my slide, but I had a picture. We do have two Filterra units at the O'Reilly's on 1740 East 32nd, East 23rd Street, sorry, in Chattanooga. Yuyu, if you could advance, next slide. So in summary, this is really kind of a recap of what Yuyu had captured and the concepts he was promoting, is that what do innovative high flow biofilters, innovative being open concept, large scale, different type of designs than the typical system in a box on a roadside. What do those innovative designs in high flow biofiltration do for Tennessee? Well, again, we can help contribute to maximum extent practicable goal that TDEC is laying out. Again, the things I mentioned: pollutant removal over and above 80% TSS, and over and above other nutrients and other pollutants. We can get rates that are very high. We can get flow attenuation for specifically for channel protection, but also even for flow attenuation for maximum design storms. And certainly runoff reduction. A Filterra high flow biofilter can be placed at the terminal point of a grass swale that's designed for water quality volume capture, and that grass swale can contribute to infiltration to the extent that Mother Nature does allow that. And that would be an improvement over just purely a treatment, a flow through treatment system as well by itself. And then the aesthetics, as you've seen, there's some really cool designs out there, and some really the high flow biofilters can really be integrated into an overall urban landscape design. And again, we can get quality, but we can get quantity management in general to help support the goals that the local jurisdiction is doing, or maybe a large development like a mixed use development, things of those kinds. And that kind of wraps up what we were trying to present. Yuyu, if you go to the next slide, it's really for questions. I will mention that I'm happy to, as your stormwater consultant, I'm happy to give lunch and learn opportunities on not only Filterra, but also a range of other stormwater management products we have. And if it's virtual, I can easily include Yuya in that conversation, and he can contribute, and as he often does, on these virtual lunch and learns. So you've got my phone number there and my email address, and Yuya email and phone is there as well. There was a couple chat questions which I covered. I'm not seeing, there we go, the chat. So to whom I responded, were you adequately taken care of? Did I answer your questions, or is there any follow-ups?
I do not see any follow-up questions coming through at this time. It looks like you answered the ones that came through so far.
Right, I took care of them as they came through.
I haven't seen anything else come through.
Yeah. Yuya, if you wouldn't mind taking a look at that last question about overflow. I took the liberty of answering it while you were talking. You have anything to add to that, if you wouldn't mind?
Sorry, I do have to catch up a little bit, so
that's fine. It's on the chat. Yeah, you probably have to open the chat page. It's the last question and my answer.
Glenn, can I make a statement? Yes,
please.
Okay, this is Ariel Soriano with the Land Development Office in the city of Chattanooga. So this is just a this is just a comment for those attendees who practice in the city of Chattanooga, and that over the past maybe 2 years, there's been a special initiative for the development of steep slope areas. And it seems to me this would be a potential application where you are getting high flows, but not just because of the how much land there is, but because of the slope, and because the footprint is so much smaller, it would be much more amenable than conventional stormwater control measures.
Yeah, I look at that as a great point, and I know that came up. That program came up in the symposium, right? Chattanooga Development Symposium. Someone gave a presentation on it, or at least touched upon it. And I apologize for not remembering who exactly. But specifically to that point, I would comment that on steep slopes, you want to minimize. You basically don't want water to accumulate, and you kind of don't want to have infiltration occur and groundwater recharge, generally speaking. So a contained system like a biofilter in a vault is I think preferable, such that you collect the water, treat it, and send it on its way. Is that kind of the direction you were thinking, or was it something else? Ariel?
Sorry, I was muted. Yeah, that's exactly right. I just wanted to make sure that they knew that we would look at this as a potential solution to those sites, and if they did work with you, that we would be open to the use of the technology in the city of Chattanooga.
Perfect, love it. Happy to stop by and talk to you more about it when, as COVID regulations permit. I'm cool with going up.
Oh, sure.
And I might add, there are nuances with Tennessee where high flow biofilters have an advantage over traditional bioretention. I didn't really delve into this in detail, but specifically, I know in Metro Nashville, and I know the issue is true in Knoxville area as well. You may hit bedrock at 6 feet below grade, right? And like, for example, the Metro Nashville Stormwater Management Guide or manual specifically has bioretention media depths that are about 4 foot. When you add an underdrain system and you add a headspace above that profile, to collect the water quality volume, you're really talking from grade to invert out of about 6 feet. A high flow biofilter with 21 inches of media effectively can be in the range of 4 foot grade to invert out, depending on how we design it again. So that has some opportunity for not only being able to put a biofilter on a site that otherwise you couldn't, but also you could actually perch a grass swale upstream of that biofilter to capture the water quality volume, and then you would have, say, 3 to 4 feet of native soil below that for infiltration opportunity, whereas a bioretention system would be basically 6 foot deep, grade to invert out across, and might be hitting bedrock. And so you might not get infiltration opportunity with bioretention system, but you could potentially get it with a high flow biofilter. The disadvantage is jurisdictions, quite frankly, aren't recognized at this point yet, but we're happy to try to work with them to explain how we can get there. Yuyu, do you have any comments on that? Did I miss any nuances?
Nope, I agree with everything there, and also in regards to your the answer for the question as well. So, yep.
Oh yeah, on the volume. Yeah, thank you for taking a look at it.
Anybody else? You know, I have to say the one thing about these virtual things is we can have other people from across the country come in and participate. I think that's my favorite thing about conference. I think we're able to have some more folks than normally we would not be able to have, you know, across the whole Stormwater states. I think that was pretty interesting. But you guys, this was great. Thank you so much. I did start the recording a little bit late. I don't like to record as soon as we're started because we do wait a little bit longer. So, but I did start about 15 minutes after we got 15 minutes or less after we got started. But it will be posted on our website at the Tenza Talk page. Our next Tenza Talk will be Thursday, December 10th, 1 p.m. Central Time with Kimberly Strong with the City of Chattanooga. And the topic will be Embracing Diversity and Inclusion. If anyone's interested in having a talk before then, please let me know. I can get you on my schedule. We would like to have one at least every 2 weeks. We would like to continue these for, I think, until next year, through next year, when we have time and available, and when it works with my schedule. With me traveling, it gets a little bit more difficult. Thank you, Glen and Yuya. I really, really do appreciate you guys talking today. A lot of the comments are saying thank you and very interesting. Please, whenever you have a moment, send me your slides, and I will get that out to everyone along with your PDH certificate.
Sure. Thank you. I just wanted to say I will PDF that this afternoon and email the presentation over to you so you can post it or send it with a PDH or however you're going to do that.
Great. So thank you so much for doing that. And just so you guys know, your certificate will either arrive this afternoon or sometime tomorrow. Any other questions or comments? I like reading comments sometimes. All right. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for everything. And thank you, Glen and Yuya, again. I really appreciate it. It's good to see your faces today. And I hope you guys have a wonderful afternoon. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you very much.
Oh, bye.
Have a good day.
Bye. Thank you.